If a micro church is the intersection of people living as citizens, as a family, and as a temple, how is it that we as micro churches can keep our focus in all three parts of that identity? How is it that we can make sure that we are worshiping, that we're loving one another, and that we're representing Jesus into the world? Well, missiologists have been helpful in showing us that you really can't do all three of those things at the same time, at least not well. What tends to happen is whenever you get together as a community, you're focused on one or two of those aspects of church, and the other part is a little more diminished. And so we want to make sure that we're doing different things as micro churches so that we're focused on different areas and making sure that we're living in the full identity that God created us to be. So what happens is churches tend to operate in two different spaces. The first space that churches operate in is called the sodalic. Sodalic space. Sodalic space is a place of mission. It's where you're going outside of your home or outside of a worship center, and it's probably risky. It could even be dangerous. This is when you're going on mission and maybe serving the needs of the poor or ministering to those in darkness or those who are addicted or those who are living in some type of bondage or maybe marginalized in society. It's where we're going, and we're not just staying for comfort. We're crossing the street, we're going to the other side of the train tracks, if you will, to take the gospel someplace else in a way that's this risky or maybe even dangerous. Primarily when we are operating in sodalic space, what is really happening is we're primarily focused on the citizen part of our identity. We're focused in representing Jesus and representing the kingdom of God someplace else. And the family aspect of church, it may be there. And the temple aspect, it may be there too, but they're just a little bit smaller. It's not the primary focus inside of sodalic space. But there's another type of space that the church operates in, and for most of us who maybe have had some experience inside of church or grew up in the church, it's the primary thing that we think of when we think about church. Missiologists refer to this as modalic space. Modalic space. When you're in a modalic place, it's a place of belonging. A place of safety, or even if you think about healing and restoration. This is the place where we get together as a family. We worship Jesus. We care for the needs of one another. And you're going to see the opposite thing happen in this type of space, because the primary emphasis in modalic space is not as much citizen and is not as much mission, but it's the family and it's the temple. We might invite some outsiders into this gathering, but it's normally primarily focused on the believers. So the citizen aspect is just a bit smaller. And so as micro churches, we should be developing both of these kinds of spaces. Sometimes when we get together as a group of believers, we're going to be primarily focused on being a family and Bible study and praying together. This might be your regular weekly gathering you have during the week on an evening or maybe on Sunday morning. But then there should be other times as a group, either everybody together or individuals on mission other places where we're going, where we're taking the gospel into the darkness. We're taking the light to those who need to see it. We're healing others. We're bringing the good news to folks that maybe aren't coming to our home yet or aren't coming to our regular gathering yet. Our micro churches must operate in both of these spaces, the sodalic and the modalic, if we're going to live in the full identity that God created us to be.